good clip of just showing the three brains. That yellow brain that sits on the outside is your thinking brain, your neocortex. Right underneath that, about the size of a lemon, is your emotional brain or chemical brain or limbic brain or midbrain. And that red brain in the back is called your being brain, which we'll talk about right now. When you're in a state of being, it means that your mind and body are working as one. So you can't forgive your mother-in-law or show compassion one time and expect to be put on the stained glass windows in church. You have to be able to replicate it over and over again.
For it to make a difference.
And when you can do it over and over again, you will begin to neurochemically condition your body to memorize compassion as well as your conscious mind.
Now there's some clips that are coming up that I want to show here that really show how this works in the brain. These are the ones that made a massive impact on me. You say that they do for most people who see it.
But let me just get this last point before we show it. So then when you do it enough times, you repeat the experience enough times, your mind and body begin to work together. You activate that third brain called the cerebellum. That's the seat of your subconscious. When you are in a state of being, your mind and body are working together. And we could say that you've memorized an internal chemical order that no person, no thing, no experience outside of you can move you from it. And when you're in that state of being, now we're mastering that information. It's become wisdom. And now that state of compassion is innate within us. And then when we're in that state, then the environment is no longer controlling how we think and feel. Now how we think and feel is beginning to affect our environment.
And this can happen at any age. You can do this at any point. This is what changed.
And we were talking about the golf swing earlier. That's a great example, but let's take it to more altruistic measures. Let's talk about, compassion or forgiveness or success or wealth. It works the same exact way for anything. Learning first, then you get the thinking brain, then you perform the action, you get your behaviors to match your intentions, you embody that information, then it becomes innate. And when you're in that state where it's in you, it's who you are, then you can say, I am successful, I am compassionate, I am a patient, because your mind and body are working together and it's no longer a philosophical concept. You know that you know.
Well, let's see what it looks like in the brain. What does it physically look like in the brain?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so this is a clip of...
So this is two neurons that have developed a long-term relationship. They've fired and wired together, and now they're hardwired into a very specific pattern. You can show the next one too here. Again, the moment they're in a long-term relationship, they've become a hardwired set of circuits that could be related to joy or pain or unhappiness, but it looks exactly the same in the brain.
So tell me what these are that we're looking at. These are
two neurons that have been, connected or synapsed so that now they're exchanging information. And neurons, they possess the unique ability to store and communicate information between each other, and they're electrochemical. And so when you fire a thought, information is traveling electrochemically from one neuron to the next, and when it passes from one neuron to the next, it's exchanging information, and that creates a state of mind.
And it does that through neuropeptide. That's what those chains are?
No, it actually does it through neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the primary thing that allow neurons to communicate between each other. Neuropeptides tend to be what signals the brain to the body that begins to turn on the third set of chemicals called hormones.
Okay.
So
this is so fascinating. This footage to me really, and I'm sure it wakes up a lot of people to see what's going on in our bodies.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, so the next clip is, again, showing...
Now this is learning in the brain. Every time you learn something new, your brain does this. Learning is making new connections. It doesn't matter what you're learning, but if you're paying attention, there'll come a moment where those neurons will begin to connect. And that, when it happens, then you begin to change yourself biologically.
It reminds me of the footage of the finger that it connects at the end.
I think there's a hidden meaning.
There
absolutely.
Is, absolutely. And so that's literally what new memories are like.
That's exactly what new memories are like. If you're learning anything from what we're talking about, you're changing biologically just like that.
Now, at the same time that those new memories are forming, you can also break those and that's what breaking an old pattern looks like, right?
Sure, and when you begin to inhibit, they begin to pull apart. And I think we have a clip of that coming up.
Great.
Now again, here we go. Two neurons, I call this the aha phenomenon. One whole neural network connecting to another whole neural network. in the brain, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. You get that aha moment where you say, now I understand.
That's the connection that is made.
It's absolutely biological.
Biological connections are made. So this is really what it, I mean, when you experience that, connecting and making a new pattern happen, or a memory or something positive in the brain, that's literally what it's doing.
That's exactly what it's doing.
And that's what can also create healing?
It can begin to create or cultivate a level of mind that ultimately can lead to healing.
So when you say that the body has the innate ability to want to heal and achieve homeostasis, that's what it looks like.
Well, let's just say that if you're thinking and feeling in the same cycle for years on end, we could say that those emotions are driving those neural networks in your brain that reaffirm the level of mind, that create the same chemicals, that signal the same genes, that keep you in this state of being. Now, genes are on and off switches. They love information. The cells love information, but if you are in that same cycle over time, you keep the same genes signaled on, the other genes turned off. So if you're living by the state of resentment for 35 years, and you don't even know that those thoughts are slipping by your awareness because they're unconscious now, and you're demonstrating what resentment looks like in every area of your life, so you're acting that way and you're feeling it, then over time, you're going to keep pushing the same genetic button that's going to create the disease.
And not even know it.
Not even know it. It's going to be happening behind the scenes of your awareness. So then the person says, well, I'm going to think positively. Or, well, first of all, you got to get in touch with all those, those subconscious or unconscious, go into the operating system of the subconscious and bring them to your awareness so that they never slip by unconsciously by you again. So the moment a person surrenders those emotions that are signaling the same gene, well, it begins to biologically break in the brain, but then it no longer signals the same gene in the same way, and the body begins to become free from emotional chains.